Look. I'm about to reveal the 10 most dangerous laws from Greene's masterpiece, the ones that separate the players from the pawns. This isn't some feel-good theory you'll forget tomorrow. This is how power actually works, in boardrooms, in politics, in your relationships, even in your family. Right now, people around you are using these laws whether you realize it or not. By the end of this video, you'll finally see the invisible game everyone else is playing, while you've been sitting on the sidelines wondering why things never go your way. Before we jump in, I want you to do 3 quick things. Hit that like button so this message spreads to more people who need to wake up, subscribe so you never miss the next breakdown in this power series, and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. It's powerful to see just how many people across the globe are stepping into the game. Law 1, never outshine the master. Your boss takes credit for your work. Sound familiar? You stayed late, crushed that presentation, came up with the brilliant solution, and somehow, your manager's the one getting promoted. You're probably thinking this is just unfair, but what if I told you there's actually a strategic reason this keeps happening to you? Here's what nobody tells you. Your competence isn't your problem, it's your approach. See, when you outshine your boss, you don't just make them look bad, you make them feel threatened. And a threatened person with power over your paycheck? That's not someone you want as an enemy. Look at Nicolas Fouquet. This guy threw a party so spectacular that King Louis XIV felt embarrassed by his own palace. 3 weeks later, Fouquet was arrested for treason, lost everything, died in prison. His crime? Making the king feel small. Now I'm not saying you're going to prison for being good at your job, but think about it. How many talented people do you know who got pushed out, passed over, or mysteriously found themselves on the wrong side of office politics? They all made the same mistake. They forgot that your boss's ego is more fragile than their position is secure. So what do you do instead? Simple. Make your boss look brilliant while you look loyal. When you solve a problem, present it as building on their vision. When you have a great idea, ask them to help you refine it. When you succeed, make sure they get some credit too. It sounds backwards. I know. But here's what really happens. When your boss looks good because of you, they become dependent on you. And dependence, that's where your real power lives. Remember this, because it connects directly to Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion, which we'll hit later. The person who masters both of these laws, they're the one everyone underestimates, right up until they take over. Keep watching, because the next law is about to show you why everyone around you seems to know things you don't. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Everyone who telegraphs their moves loses. Think about poker for a second. The guy who can't hide his excitement when he gets good cards. He's going home broke. Life works the same way, except the stakes are your career, your relationships, your future. Here's what's happening right now. You walk into a meeting and announce exactly what you want. You tell your coworker about your promotion plans. You let your ex know you want them back. And then you wonder why everything falls apart. Listen. I'm not talking about lying to people. I'm talking about strategy. When you reveal your intentions too early, you hand everyone else the roadmap to stop you. Your competition knows exactly where to block you. Your boss knows exactly how desperate you are. Your ex knows exactly how much leverage they have. Look at Steve Jobs. When Apple was developing the iPhone, he didn't announce, "Hey everyone, we're about to kill the BlackBerry." Instead, he let everyone think Apple was just a computer company, right up until he put a supercomputer in everyone's pocket. Meanwhile, BlackBerry was busy telling the world about their next keyboard improvements. They telegraphed every move, while Apple moved in silence. We all know how that ended. So, here's what you do instead. Keep your mouth shut about your real goals. Give people just enough information to stay engaged, but never enough to sabotage you. When someone asks about your plans, smile and say something vague like, "We'll see what happens." When you're job hunting, don't tell your current boss until you've signed the offer. When you're working on a big project, don't reveal your best ideas until you're ready to execute. When you're interested in someone, don't lay all your cards on the table on the first date. The people who master this law, they're the ones you never see coming, until they're already winning. If you've ever revealed too much too early and watched it backfire, type "guilty" in the comments. Don't worry, we've all been there, but now you know better. But here's where it gets really interesting. The next law is about doing the complete opposite, and somehow, it works even better. Law 6, court attention at all costs. Attention is the ultimate currency. And right now, you're probably broke. Look around you. The person getting promoted isn't necessarily the best worker, it's the one everyone remembers. The influencer making millions isn't the most talented, they're the one you can't scroll past. The politician winning elections isn't the smartest, they're the one dominating headlines. Here's the brutal truth. If nobody knows you exist, you don't. You can be brilliant in silence, or you can be average in the spotlight, and the spotlight wins every single time. Take Elon Musk. Half the stuff he tweets makes people furious, but here's what's genius about it. When Tesla stock moves, when SpaceX launches, when he sneezes, millions of people are watching. Love him or hate him, you're paying attention. And attention, that converts to influence, which converts to power. Compare that to all the brilliant engineers working in silence at other companies. Who can name them? Exactly. But here's the thing about this law, it's dangerous. You can crash and burn just as fast as you can rise. Remember Logan Paul in that forest? He got attention all right, but it nearly destroyed his career. So how do you court attention without becoming a cautionary tale? Simple. Be controversial about ideas, not character. Challenge conventional thinking, don't challenge basic human decency. Make people think, don't make them disgusted. Share bold opinions about your industry. Tell stories nobody else is telling. Take stands on issues that matter. But never, ever, punch down at people who can't defend themselves. Because here's what most people miss. The goal isn't just to be noticed, it's to be remembered for the right reasons. You want people thinking about your ideas, not questioning your judgment. The people who master this law, they understand that in a world of infinite content, being ignored is the only real failure. But what happens when all that attention brings the wrong kind of people into your life? That's where the next law becomes your shield. Law 10, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. This sounds harsh, but energy is contagious. And right now, you're probably infected. You know that friend who only calls when their life is falling apart? That coworker who complains about everything but changes nothing? That family member who sees problems in every opportunity? They're not just sharing their problems, they're rewiring your brain to see the world through their lens. Here's what's happening. Every time you spend an hour listening to someone's endless drama, your mind starts expecting drama. Every time you comfort someone who refuses to help themselves, you start believing that struggle is normal. Every time you hang around people who blame everyone else for their problems, you start making excuses for your own. Look. I'm not saying don't help people. I'm saying protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Steve Jobs was famous for this. He avoided what he called energy vampires, people who sucked the optimism out of every room. Instead, he surrounded himself with people who believed impossible things could happen. And guess what? Impossible things kept happening around him. Meanwhile, how many brilliant people do you know who got stuck because they spent all their time trying to fix people who didn't want to be fixed? Listen, misery doesn't just love company, it recruits company. Unsuccessful people will unconsciously sabotage your success because it makes them feel better about their choices. They'll call your ambition unrealistic, your standards too high, your dreams impossible. Pause for a second, and think, who in your life drains your energy every single time you interact with them? Who leaves you feeling exhausted instead of inspired? I'll wait. Got someone in mind? Good. Now here's the hard part. You need to create distance. Not because you're mean, but because you can't save someone who's drowning while they're pulling you under. The people who master this law. They're not selfish, they're strategic. They know that protecting their energy isn't cruel, it's necessary. Because when you're operating from a place of strength and optimism, that's when you can actually help people who want to be helped. But sometimes, avoiding toxic people isn't enough. Sometimes you have to fight back, and that's where the next law gets really dark. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. Half measures in conflict always backfire. And I know, this sounds extreme, but hear me out. You've been there. Someone at work undermines you, so you complain to HR, they get a slap on the wrist, and suddenly they're coming after you twice as hard. You break up with someone toxic, but you stay friends, and they spend the next 6 months sabotaging your new relationships. You compete with a business rival, you win one round, but you leave them standing, and they come back with lawyers. Here's what you need to understand. When someone decides you're their enemy, showing mercy doesn't make you noble, it makes you naive. Because while you're being the bigger person, they're planning your destruction. Look at what happened to Julius Caesar. He defeated Pompey in battle, but instead of finishing him, he showed mercy. He let Pompey's supporters live, kept his enemies close, thought forgiveness would win their loyalty. How did that work out? They stabbed him 23 times on the Senate floor. Now, I'm not saying you should literally destroy people. I'm talking about completely removing their ability to harm you. In business, you don't just win the contract, you make sure they can never bid against you again. In your career, you don't just prove them wrong, you make their position irrelevant. In relationships, you don't just break up, you completely cut contact. Because here's the thing about enemies, they don't go away when you ignore them, they regroup. They don't forget when you embarrass them, they plot revenge. And they definitely don't appreciate mercy, they see it as weakness to exploit. But this law only works if you follow it completely. Half measures are worse than doing nothing. If you're going to move against someone, you better make sure they can't move back. Otherwise, you just made an enemy with nothing left to lose. Remember Law 3. Conceal your intentions. This is exactly why. You never let your enemy see the full scope of what you're planning, because if they know, they'll strike first. The people who master this law. They're not cruel, they're decisive. They understand that in serious conflict, there's no such thing as a moral victory, there's only winning and losing. And losing means giving your enemy another chance to win. This isn't about being aggressive, it's about being effective. When someone declares war on your peace, your reputation, your livelihood, you don't negotiate with them, you remove their ability to wage that war. But what if you're dealing with someone who hasn't declared themselves your enemy yet? What if you need to understand what motivates them first? That's where our next law becomes essential. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. Independence is power. And most of you just gave yours away. Think about it. You promised your boss you'd stay for 2 years, so when that dream job opens up, you can't take it. You committed to that relationship too early, so when red flags started popping up, you ignored them. You pledged loyalty to that business partner, and now they're making decisions for both of you. Here's what nobody tells you about commitment, it's supposed to be mutual, but it rarely is. You're being loyal while everyone else is being strategic. You're honoring your word while they're keeping their options open. Look at free agents in sports. LeBron James never committed to one team for life, he went where he could win, where he could grow, where he was valued most. Meanwhile, loyal players who stayed put. Most of them never even made it to the finals. But this isn't just about sports, it's about life. The most powerful people in business. They never put all their eggs in one basket. They have multiple revenue streams, multiple relationships, multiple options. Because when you have choices, you have power. Now, I'm not saying don't keep your word. I'm saying don't give your word away cheaply. Don't commit to people who won't commit to you. Don't lock yourself into situations that limit your growth. And definitely don't sacrifice your future for someone else's comfort. Because here's the brutal truth. The moment you become dependent on someone, is the moment they stop needing to earn your loyalty. Your boss stops giving you raises because they know you won't leave. Your partner stops trying because they think you're locked in. Your friends stop respecting your boundaries because they assume you'll always be there. The people who master this law. They're not disloyal, they're smart. They understand that keeping your options open isn't betrayal, it's insurance. It's making sure you're choosing to be somewhere, not trapped there. When people know you could leave, they work harder to make you want to stay. When they know you have other options, they treat you better. When they know you're independent, they respect your choice to be with them. What's one commitment that's holding you back right now? Maybe it's a job, a relationship, a business deal that seemed good at the time but now feels like a trap. Drop it in the comments below. Sometimes just saying it out loud is the first step to freedom. But maintaining independence is just the beginning. The next law is about understanding what really drives people, and it's darker than you think. Law 33, discover each person's thumbscrew. Everyone has a weakness. Smart people find it. And right now, someone already knows yours. Your boss knows you need this job to pay your mortgage, so they pile on extra work without extra pay. Your ex knows you hate conflict, so they use guilt to manipulate you. That salesperson knows you want to look successful, so they pitch the premium package. Here's what's happening while you're being authentic. Everyone around you is taking mental notes. They're watching what makes you light up, what makes you shut down, what you'll do anything to avoid, and what you'll do anything to get. Look, this isn't about being manipulative, it's about being realistic. People are already doing this to you. The question is, are you doing it back? Think about the last person who got you to do something you didn't really want to do. They didn't use force, they used leverage. They found your pressure point and applied just enough pressure to get what they wanted. Your coworker who always gets help with their projects. They figured out you hate disappointing people. Your friend who always picks the restaurant. They know you avoid confrontation. Your partner who wins every argument. They found exactly which buttons to push. So how do you find someone's thumbscrew? Simple. Pay attention. What do they brag about? That's their pride, and pride is always vulnerable. What do they avoid talking about? That's their insecurity. What makes them angry? That's where they feel powerless. What do they spend money on? That's what they value most. But here's the key. You use this information to influence, not destroy. You help your boss look good in front of their boss, because you know they're insecure about their position. You appeal to your client's desire to be seen as innovative, because you noticed all their competitors are playing it safe. The people who master this law. They're not predators, they're students of human nature. They understand that everyone is motivated by something, and speaking to those motivations isn't manipulation, it's communication. When you know what someone really wants, you can help them get it. When you understand what they fear, you can help them avoid it. When you recognize their pressure points, you can be the person who relieves that pressure instead of adding to it. But sometimes, understanding people isn't enough. Sometimes you need them to see you differently, and that's where our next law changes everything. Law 34, be royal in your own fashion. How you see yourself is how others will see you. And most of you are treating yourselves like peasants. You apologize for taking up space. You undercharge for your work. You accept treatment you'd never give your worst enemy. And then you wonder why nobody respects you. Here's what's happening. Every time you put yourself down, you're training people to look down on you. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you're teaching them that's all you're worth. Every time you act grateful for scraps, you're convincing them you don't deserve the full meal. Look at someone like Oprah. She didn't wait for permission to be important. She decided she was important and acted accordingly. She set her own standards, created her own rules, and demanded the world meet her where she stood. And guess what? It did. But here's the genius part. She never acted superior to others, she acted superior to mediocrity. She raised the bar for herself, and everyone around her had to step up to match it. This isn't about being arrogant, it's about having standards. You dress like you matter, even when nobody's watching. You speak like your words carry weight, because they should. You set boundaries like you're worth protecting, because you are. Remember Law 1. Never outshine the master. Here's how you balance both. You don't compete with your boss's authority, you elevate your own presence. You make them look good while making yourself unforgettable. You show respect for their position while commanding respect for your character. The people who master this law. They understand that confidence isn't about proving you're better than everyone else, it's about knowing you deserve to be in the room. They don't need external validation because they've already validated themselves. When you walk into a meeting believing you belong there, people sense it. When you quote your prices without apology, clients pay them. When you set clear boundaries, others respect them. When you treat yourself like royalty, the world starts treating you like nobility. But here's the thing. Real royalty never has to announce itself. True power whispers while weakness shouts. You don't need a crown when you carry yourself like you were born to wear one. And speaking of things that seem too good to be true, the next law is about why you should run from anything that's free. Law 40, despise the free lunch. Everything has a price. Everything. And if you can't see the price, you're probably paying it without knowing. That free social media platform. You're the product being sold to advertisers. That free consultation. It's a sales pitch in disguise. That favor from your friend. It's going on their mental ledger, and they'll collect when it's convenient for them. Here's what happens when you take the free lunch. You lose your independence. You owe someone something you can't define, to be collected at a time you can't control, in a way you might not want to pay. Think about Facebook. Instagram. TikTok. They're free, right? Wrong. You're paying with your attention, your data, your mental health, and your time. And that payment? It's funding algorithms designed to keep you scrolling, buying, and comparing yourself to everyone else. But here's the deeper truth. When someone gives you something for free, they're positioning themselves above you. They're the generous giver, you're the grateful receiver. And grateful people don't negotiate. They don't demand better. They just say, thank you, and accept whatever comes next. Look at successful people. They pay for everything. They hire coaches instead of taking free advice. They buy quality tools instead of using free versions. They invest in relationships instead of expecting handouts. Because they understand that when you pay, you control the relationship. When you pay for something, you can demand quality. When it's free, you get what you get. When you pay, you can walk away if you're not satisfied. When it's free, you're stuck with whatever they decide to give you. Your time has value. Your attention has value. Your independence has value. And when you give those away for free, you're not saving money, you're spending your most precious resources. The people who master this law. They understand that paying your own way isn't expensive, it's freedom. When you pay for what you need, you don't owe anyone anything. When you invest in yourself, you control your own destiny. So next time someone offers you something for nothing, ask yourself, what's the real cost? Because I promise you, there's always a bill coming, and it's usually higher than the original price would have been. But what happens when you've mastered all these laws? When you understand power so well that you can use it, or choose not to. That's where our final law takes you beyond the game entirely. Law 48, Assume formlessness. The most powerful force is the one you can't pin down. And this is where everything changes. You know what makes water so powerful? It has no fixed shape. It flows around obstacles instead of fighting them. It finds every weakness in the strongest dam, and it never fights the same battle twice. Think about the people who've tried to destroy Amazon. They built better websites. Jeff Bezos moved into cloud computing. They competed on price, he created subscription services. They focused on retail, he bought whole grocery chains. Every time someone figured out how to beat Amazon, Amazon became something else entirely. Meanwhile, Blockbuster had a formula, and they stuck to it. Kodak had a business model, and they defended it. BlackBerry had their strength, and they doubled down on it. Where are they now? Here's what most people don't understand about power. The moment you become predictable, you become vulnerable. The second people figure out your pattern, they know how to beat you. When you lock yourself into one identity, one strategy, one way of being, you give your enemies a target. But when you assume formlessness, you become impossible to pin down. People can't strategize against someone they can't define. They can't attack a position you don't hold. They can't exploit a weakness that keeps changing. Look back at everything we've covered. Law 1. Never outshine the master, but sometimes you need attention, so you use Law 6. Law 20. Don't commit to anyone, but sometimes you need to understand them, so you apply Law 33. Law 15 says crush your enemies, but Law 3 says conceal your intentions first. All 9 previous laws serve this final principle. You use whichever tool fits the situation. You adapt to whatever challenge you're facing. You become what the moment demands, not what people expect. The person who masters formlessness. They're never the same person twice, but they're always authentically themselves. They're not being fake, they're being flexible. They're not inconsistent, they're strategic. In business, they're the entrepreneur one day and the corporate executive the next. In relationships, they know when to be vulnerable and when to be strong. In conflict, they can be the negotiator or the warrior, depending on what wins. Because here's the ultimate truth about power. It's not about control, it's about adaptation. The most powerful person in any room isn't the one with the most rigid rules, it's the one who can change the rules when they need to. When you assume formlessness, you become like water. You can be gentle enough to nourish, or powerful enough to carve through stone. You can flow around obstacles, or become the tsunami that reshapes the entire landscape. And that's the difference between someone who knows the laws of power, and someone who has transcended them. You don't just follow the rules, you become the force that makes new ones. This is mastery. This is formlessness. This is power in its purest form. Here's the truth most people won't tell you, these laws aren't evil. They're reality. Every interaction is a power dynamic whether you acknowledge it or not. Your boss deciding your schedule. Your friend choosing the restaurant. Your partner steering the conversation. Someone is always leading, someone is always following. The question isn't whether you'll play the game. It's whether you'll play it consciously, or be played by others who understand these rules. Right now, while you've been trying to be nice, someone else has been studying these patterns. While you've been hoping fairness would save you, they've been learning how the world actually works. While you've been playing by rules that don't exist, they've been writing the rules that do. These laws don't make you a bad person. They make you an aware person. And awareness, that's the first step to freedom. Because once you see the game, you can choose how to play it. You can use these tools to protect yourself, to build something meaningful, to help the people you care about. The alternative? Remaining naive while others shape your reality for you. These 10 laws are just the beginning. Greene wrote 48 for a reason. Which law hit you the hardest? Drop a number 1 through 10 in the comments. I read every single one. Was it Law 1? Realizing why your talent isn't getting you ahead. Law 15. Understanding why your enemies keep coming back. Or maybe Law 48. Seeing how the most powerful people stay unpredictable. And if you're ready to understand true power, that playlist right there breaks down influence, persuasion, and human psychology. Everything you need to see the invisible forces shaping your world. Subscribe if you want more uncomfortable truths, because here's what I've learned. The powerful count on your ignorance. Don't give them that advantage. Knowledge is power, but only if you use it.